couple different workshops now on like how to really leverage AI and like tips for, you know. Okay.
Okay, so Tia, this young woman who is the techno specialist
Can we-
in LA.
Would it bother anybody if I turned them on?
No, I just turned it on because I didn't know what else to do.
Can you hear us, Austin?
You turned them on or?
I turned them on.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, I can.
So she's from LA
That's warmer too.
and she
It's
works
better
in
light.
technology with television, video, whatever. She doesn't know where to go to make friends at this time. Her friends are in Los Angeles and in Berlin, Germany. She's gone back to Berlin several times.
Sorry, Mary, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's chatting.
Is anyone else, has everybody else RSVP'd?
Every Elijah.
Oh.
And we were supposed to be running late. And Kristen was like a maybe.
Okay. Okay, well, since,
Oh, actually, though, our minute taker isn't here.
oh,
So that would be ideal.
okay, so we need our minute taker. I guess we'll wait a few more minutes.
Is your name Alexa?
It could be granola.
Yeah, granola.
Seems I'm not the only one who's late.
Well, I was here early and I could not believe the traffic. I thought,
66 was back up.
I am definitely running late here on out. I've always come a little late, and never had any problem getting here. Well,
I thought you were late because of the traffic.
No, you come here at 4 o'clock and it's like, oh my gosh, it's bumper to bumper out there. Where the hell did all these people come from? What is that about?
I can start.
Like, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Okay, well,
Okay, where's our meeting?
we have quorum. Tia will be our note taker, so I would like to call this meeting to order. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming this afternoon. I'm Amy Wolkowinski, Chair of the Flagstaff Sustainability Commission, and welcome to the March 2025 Sustainability Commission meeting. We'll start with roll call. Chair Wolkowinski, present. Chair or Vice Chair Metzger. Here. Commissioner Bourne.
Here.
Commissioner Carlson. Here. Commissioner Conkle. Commissioner Lammy.
Here.
And Commissioner Skurlock.
Here.
Excellent. I apologize. I did not speak to anybody about this in advance. Are any commissioners in a position to read the land acknowledgement?
I mean, I can read.
I will. I'll do it. I'll do it. I just like to hear other voices in the room.
Do it, you should do it. It looks like.
Well, I have it pulled up, so, the Sustainability Commission humbly acknowledges the ancestral homelands of this area's indigenous nations and original stewards. These lands, still inhabited by native descendants, border mountains sacred to indigenous peoples. We honor them, their legacies, their traditions, and their continued contributions. We celebrate their past, present, and future generations who will forever know this place as home.
Great. My dad read it at Thanksgiving.
Oh, isn't that nice? Can you imagine us getting a little memo from someone saying you have to take it out?
Okay, agenda item number 4, public comment. At this time, any member of the public may address the commission on any subject within their jurisdiction that is not scheduled before the commission on that day. Due to open meeting laws, the commission cannot discuss or act on items presented during this portion of the agenda. If you are on Teams to address the commission on an item that is on the agenda, please use the Teams chat function and simply type in public comment to indicate to the chair that you would like to comment. The chair will then recognize you when it's time for public comment, and staff will unmute your microphone if needed. Do we have anyone for public? Let's take a look at the minutes from last month. Commissioners, is there any feedback, changes, comments on the minutes from the February meeting? Or
I didn't notice that you guys put down when I get here. Arrived at 4:35. Did we do that on all the minutes? You always write down exactly what time I got here? Okay.
If you weren't there.
got here at
if you weren't
4:35.
there- If you were not there at roll call,
Oh, I see.
so just be on time and you will not be.
Acknowledged.
Uh,
We're gonna notice that.
Any comments or motions to approve?
I move that we approve the minutes from the last
Second.
All right, we have a motion from Commissioner Metzger to approve and a second from Commissioner Lammy. To approve the minutes from the February meeting. All in favor, say aye.
meeting.
Aye. All against, say no. Fantastic. Let's get started with our business. I asked Tia, we have spent a lot of time reviewing the regional plan, making comments. We had a working group about regional plan, and then we've spent several meetings going over the last cap and giving feedback. So I asked Tia just to make sure that we don't lose track of our role in these processes and when it is appropriate for us to give feedback and making sure that we have the time to review the materials and give proper feedback. I asked her to give us an update on timelines and what we need to do as commissioners to remain actively engaged in both of those documents. So just 5 minutes for Tia or city staff to let us know what the next time will be for the Sustainability Commission to lean in to this process.
Introduce yourself.
Today, will you help me with that?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Nate Pressler with the Sustainability Office, filling in for Nicole and Jenny, who are on well-deserved. One is on vacation, one is helping her father. And so I do have some updates on LASCAP and the regional plan, and also thank you all for being so involved in these projects. They're really big and hairy, and and you guys have gotten really down into the meat of it from what I've understood. And so just really want to extend an appreciation for all of that insight that you provided already. Regarding the last cap project, we're in the same phase as the last time that the Sustainability Commission met on the topic. They're gathering feedback from city staff, elected officials, and the community on that code concepts report. So that's the current phase. They will be going to, or staff will be going to city council again in either April or May with a shortened version of the presentation that you guys got. And that'll focus more on the questions at the end of the presentation. And then there will be a town hall with city council and other partners on that last cap to get some more input on the code concepts report. And that'll be in June, but they don't have the date determined exactly yet. And then on the regional plan, following that 60-day or following the draft report, there were really good comments, and actually sustainability was one of the most cited comments that came in. And so thank you all for providing comments yourselves, and also just want to let you know that there's a lot of community voice around this. I think something like 250 comments. So really great. Staff is going through and looking at every single comment that was received and then figuring out which ones are actionable, which can be easily addressed, and where more larger discussions are needed. And then there's going to be a survey coming out in April on some specific areas where staff needs more public input. So look forward to that in April. That would be another good check-in point. And then there will be open house events as well, where people can participate in person instead. So all that information is going to be coming up on the regional plan website and in the newsletter shortly. And then council will have a retreat on the revised draft on Friday, May 2nd. Those are the updates I have. I'm happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability.
Danae, that was fantastic. Those were some of the things that I wanted to know. Anybody?
Yeah.
You said that on May 2nd, that's when the new draft come out?
I know
Usually.
council's gonna be looking at it. I don't know what the publishing timeline is.
So it might be a week or two before that potentially.
I would hope so, but I can find out from Genevieve if they have a timeline on when the new draft gets released.
You know, or like changes to the regional plan, are they all just based on comments that were given?
Mostly that is what's driving it now. They've had additional commission, or I forget what their regional plan official title is. So they've had additional meetings on that, and so there's some direction coming to that, but it's being driven by the comment.
I think they're,
Address that.
I think the regional plan committee.
Thank you.
You want that?
Well, thank you so much for coming today and sharing that with us today.
I'm still gonna hang out.
Oh, all right.
The next item of business on our agenda is the neighborhood sustainability grants. And we have a large block of time devoted to this today because we have several things to tie up from previous discussions and several things to talk about with regard to how we're going to move forward with the NSG revision process, et cetera. I'm going to let Tia lead all of that, but before that, we wanted to talk to you as the working group for the event next week, the Neighborhood Sustainability Grant Discovery Stroll. This is going to be our first event formatted this way. We're very excited about it. It's going to be extremely interactive, should be fun and engaging for members of the public, for us as commissioners, and anybody who attends. And there will be food, snacks, refreshments. So what we're gonna do is, well, I guess let's start with the ask that we have of all commissioners is to be present. Can everybody come? Excellent.
Where is it again? I mean, I'm sorry, the stroll, I have this vision
Yeah,
of walking.
it's at the
down
Market
street.
of Dreams.
Where is the Market of Dreams?
I'm sure Tia has the address. It's is it Fourth Street?
Yeah, it's behind Fratelli's off Fourth Street. In that
Oh, where the,
strip mall.
the White Dove place is, all that stuff.
Not quite.
Like,
It's
in
it's
between
right
the
on
Fratelli.
Fourth Street, right? The White Dove is
Florida?
around the corner.
Oh, glorious.
Yeah.
I would call that, I'd call that a dreamy
What else
place.
is in that?
The reason that we're calling it a stroll is because we're gonna have stations of people are gonna be moving around. It will not only be interactive, but we'll have movement.
So from the committee's perspective,
Uh-huh.
is there been a rental space? Did you have to pay for us to be able to have those places, or is it just, how's this working?
This is
What are the logistics behind it?
I will let Tia speak to the logistics and budget, but yes, it is a rental and it's affordable and we're very mindful of budget. What's our total budget?
Hello? No, that was me. I'm sorry. No, I'm real funny for this. And yeah, our total budget is $500 actually for the event. And we have, it's about $200 for the event space. In the future, we might be able to use it like a free space, but also this was a great opportunity to work with Market of Dreams, who wasn't able to get a grant this round. So that was kind of a bonus for that.
It's a good location too. I like the notion it's not in the traditional
Sure.
walk area, but something a little different, get people out of space, as long as they know where. it
Yeah.
is.
Agreed. And then we have like 200-ish, 250 for.
You want us to bring anything? Shall I bring something?
No, I think we should have it covered. I'm gonna pick some stuff up from like Sprouts Catering and then like beverages from Sam's Club. Tom might help with some pickups.
If you wanted to bring your flask, you know.
Oh, that's right. It's an adult beverage area. Adult beverage.
It is not.
We will not be serving adult beverages.
Oh, yeah. They do have, did you notice the Sam's Club now has compostable plates and things?
I do.
Yeah.
That's great to know though. Yeah. And it would be good to confirm with, if we do ever go that route, confirm that our local composters can process that specific brand.
Excellent.
So with it being like walk around and interactive, do the awardees also get to walk around and talk to each other?
Yes, so we have it structured so that half of the time there will be half of the awardees
Okay.
presenting and the other half mingling with the crowd, and then they'll switch. So I'm not gonna go into the details of the event right now because it is actually, I think we have it all figured out. I'm pretty excited about it, but it's a little complicated.
Yeah.
But we have enough city staff and commissioners to run it. I'm optimistic. And what we need from you is show up a little bit early, like, just 5 or 10 minutes. You don't have to get there early to help set up. Be interactive and,
Have a t-shirt that says
Enjoy.
sustainability.
Councilmember has
Lovely.
his hand up too.
oh, okay, thank you. Austin, give me just a second to finish my sentence. And then stay for, 10 or 15 minutes afterwards to break everything down. Because I think if we all do that, it won't take long at all. Councilmember Aslan.
Hi, guys. This is such a great idea. Whose idea was it?
I think this blossomed from previous commission. The idea came up, the idea that it needed to be more interactive and more engaging has been, I think Commissioner Conkle is the only commissioner that was around for the beginning of that ideation.
Huh.
And then as a working group, we have massaged that idea.
This is really cool. I've been watching all this happen for a couple years, and it's definitely a very dry process most of the time. I think this is an incredible innovation. My only question was, I'll see you guys there next Thursday. I'm gonna skedaddle pretty quickly because I need to get over to the water director meet and greet that's happening at City Hall at the same time. Has anyone contacted the newspaper? Do we know if there's going to be media there?
That's on my
Is there a
list.
plan for that?
Yes, I was planning to reach out to Jake Bacon. So that's on our list and hopefully we'll be able to get somebody there.
Yeah, Tia, maybe work with Sarah on a press release for that. That goes out to more than just the newspaper. We have a TV station. Arizona's Family now has a satellite operation up here in Flagstaff. That might be good to have them there. Hell, it might make the evening news back in the great state of Maricopa.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I will
So
do that.
yeah, I would do more than just the Arizona Daily Sun, and that's what Sarah's for. It's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilmember Allen.
Yeah, will do.
Okay. Any questions about expectations from you about the event?
Can everyone attend? Is there anyone who can't attend?
So they can make it.
Well, and you mentioned that the processes will be, people will be moving about, getting up. Is there the expectation, and I certainly remind it, that we would like take a seat at a place in case somebody wants to talk about the grant processes, blah, 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 blah. Is there going to be something that we have to do with that?
There is going to be a period. We're not going to start the event right at 5. We're going to give people 15 minutes to show up. So we will have, Tia is going to set up a neighborhood sustainability grant table and there will be a welcome table. So Tom has volunteered to work that table and any other commissioners would be welcome to join at that table. We envision that our role will be to just mingle, greet people, interact, talk to the community.
You
So,
too can have $7,500.
yes. So Commissioner Metzger, maybe you should sit with Tom at the table. That sounds like that'd be a great idea.
Will we have pamphlets to pass out? Remember the pamphlets we all worked on, the notion that we should give out more information in foreign languages, et cetera?
We have a flyer.
There it is.
Yeah.
Can they invite people, like the awardees, are they inviting like friends and family, or are they inviting colleagues?
I believe, I mean, everybody, I think everybody would understand that is welcome from the invitation.
Say that again.
I asked if the awardees were inviting people and who the names were.
Yes, some are like significant others and some are like important, like like a co-founder or like other important people on the project. And I've really been encouraging that.
Now, the notion is that this is a public event, so people who are not participating we want them in. So the newspaper article is to go in ahead of the event, not as a post assignment, but this is coming up, we hope to come. That's right.
Kind of both. Yeah, I think
We also have capacity, you know. it's-
we are nearing,
Yes.
yeah,
So
at least in terms of beverage. The Market of Dreams like has over like capacity for over 100, but we don't have the budget for the food and beverages for.
I don't think we,
I won't drink.
it's my sense that we don't need to advertise beforehand more than we're doing organically. I posted it on LinkedIn, you know, and I'm reaching out to my network, encouraging people to come and see what we're up to.
I think that is like a question for me in terms of the press release, like that's like, we are nearing like the 50 number. You know, I'll start to tell who will show up for sure.
Right.
But, so it's like, I'll just talk to our public affairs director and kind of talk through this.
I was considering inviting that cute board, but.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
Bring your dad.
I'll ask if you want to.
A full celebrity.
We just advertise that.
We're all sitting around going, well, the weather's been really crappy lately, is it your fault?
Excellent. Well, I'm excited. Any questions that anybody has between now and the event next week? I'd say run them through Tia. And if she does
refresher, it's 5 o'clock to what?
2-7, the event officially ends at 6:30.
Okay.
So it's
You want
from
to-
5 to 5:30, we'll be doing welcome, munching, and then we will have a period where I'll get up and tell everybody how it's gonna work. I'm a little nervous about that.
Oh, no.
I just hope it works because it sounds really good.
We can have a
So
bullhorn or a microphone.
we're gonna have a microphone.
Okay.
So at 5:30, the presentations will start. We'll have 2 sessions that are 30 minutes each. 6:30, we'll thank everybody and release people who need to leave and encourage people to stay and network. So 7, if people are still chatty and hanging out, we'll just start packing up around them.
Pull a chair out.
Yeah,
Should we bring a chair?
I don't think so.
No, they have to.
It's a great facility that Tia and Roger found.
Well, I'm really confused. I was envisioning us being in a parking lot, so we are in a physical plant,
Yes, we are in a building,
the
Market of
Market of
Dreams.
Dreams.
It's called that because it's like an entrepreneurial space.
Okay, like where
So
people
they-
bring their
it's
good stuff to sell,
actually-
like,
yeah.
like a live Etsy thing.
They have a little market next door and it actually will be open. I don't think it will be super busy.
Awesome.
People could stop in there and then
Okay.
stop in the.
Just cover
Be good business for the
in
market.
case your father's wrong.
Yeah.
All right, I don't think we need to spend any more time on the event then. So let's talk about the Neighborhood Sustainability Grant Program.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hold this up. Okay, so. Yeah. All things neighborhood sustainability grant. Today, we're gonna talk about a variety of things. Gonna work. My computer's just being slow. So we're gonna kick off second part of this discussion, finalizing the debrief that we started in January. And then we're gonna talk about the need or purpose for a working group this upcoming grant cycle, on. Yeah, more to come on that, discussing kind of a rough draft of the timeline and like when we want materials finished and up on the website and start outreach. Then we're gonna do a little brainstorm for the Earth Day table activity. We have 4 commissioners that will be helping table on April 19th at our Earth Day celebration. And then we just already covered about the upcoming event. And then we'll wrap up talking about the name of the Neighborhood Sustainability Grant Program and kind of a recent request that came in and, you know, possibilities of renaming the program. So let's dive back into the debrief. Here's a lot of text. That's a bit of a recap from the discussion. I'll go through this. We discussed that 3 of 25 applicants filled out the application process review survey. 2 of them said the process was great. 1 said it was terrible. In summary, that's really
It
summarized.
was the bell jar. Bell jar.
And then these other comments are summary, like comments from you all. So like the grant review prep meeting, like practice making comments during that. Ensure clear guidelines for reviewers to make comments on low scores, specifically like if it's not like the template isn't great right now, like what can we do to do it? And just the comment that we are moving in the right direction, and these comments were incredibly helpful for non-awardees this year. We discussed the balance between how we ensure applicants aren't just saying what they think reviewers want to hear, and then the need for like a clear scoring rubric and like how that is helpful for like equity. Yeah, it's balance. We discussed possibilities for a more customizable rubric. There's suggestions to democratize the application somehow and make it more accessible. Suggestions to be more open to considering budget adjustments in order to partially fund more projects. Like, do we want to build that more, like formalize that more as a process? It's like kind of an option sort of on the table that maybe some people know about, but just for discussion point. Including more people in the grant review process worked well to distribute the workload more, and I know provide more unique perspectives as well. Consider adjusting the review timeline. I can remember, Amy, I think you brought this up, and there was a comment about like maybe the first review being done in October. Yeah, was that in regards to feeling like there wasn't a chance to adjust scores after the Q&A enough, or remember any chance?
I vaguely remember the discussion. I think that came up when we were talking about how to handle situations in the future where there's a large discrepancy between judges, between scorers on the panel.
Oh, that we would have more.
And because the
Yes.
first time we were all in the room discussing it was when we were trying to make the decision and give the awards, and it just felt like it was rushed, and if we would have had a little more time to think through the process. So I think this time doing 2 things. Number 1, establishing a better process
Yes.
for when we get to that situation ahead of time. And if we could have more time, if we could have, maybe we don't devote an entire meeting one time to the review process. Maybe we devote part of a meeting to the discussion, and then we finalize scores, or we finalize scores outside of the meeting. I don't know what the answer is, but I just felt that what happened at the last meeting, we just needed more
Yeah,
guidance or more time.
yes.
So just considering how to do that, I think it's
I think
important.
one of the weaknesses was that there were specific grants that floated to the top, if you will. And not everybody had read that particular grant. And so I think we get some time ahead of time that says, okay, these are some grants that we need to have everybody read now. So when we come to the table, we had some fruitful discussion as opposed to, well, wait a minute, I like my grant. And I remember having to give up something I liked so somebody else could have what they liked. And I think if you have everyone reading some of the higher, the grants have a little bit more controversy to them, we have a more intelligent discussion.
Thank you. I remember discussing this more now. So I think what we had talked about was getting you our results, and then maybe having you let everybody know, these are the grants that are
Yeah.
right hovering around that line.
Yeah.
That you may or may not be getting funded based on review. So let's get more eyes on these
Yes.
grants, whether it's everybody or 2 additional people so that it's still a total odd number of
Yeah.
reviewers.
And I think, yeah, I can think of a couple ways to, yeah, address that. So there is only like, usually we have the October meeting, you know, the fourth Thursday, and we don't actually talk about NSG. We just say, hey, scores are due in like a few days. So either scores could be due like, you know, day before that meeting, and we could discuss the discrepancies and assign. I mean, I think we'd still want to randomize the assignments,
Yes.
and I don't think it should necessarily have to be everyone reading all the rest of it.
That would really inform the discussion.
Well, the other thing about that is that
It's up to
if, for example,
Workload that you want.
rather than having 2 or 3 people read these specific ones, that I read A, B, and C, you read D, D, and E, and someone else's, so that there's more of a mix. Then when the dialogue comes together, it has a little bit more differentiation in viewpoints being.
Well, even if we had like 2 additional reviewers, that would really bring in, like, if the discrepancy is still there, then I think that speaks to that, you know, it's just maybe, you know, there's a variety of reasons, yeah, something like that, or it gets really solidified that it's one way or the other too, so.
Well, one of the things I was gonna suggest too, when you were talking, we are having open discussion now, is that correct? So let's talk about it and stuff.
I mean, I do have like versions of some of these questions later too, as more pointed questions, but I think this is.
Well, one of the things I wrote down was you were talking about variations. Perhaps we could have a subtext of a subgroup of mini grants. That people say, oh, you know what, I really only need $500 for what I like to do. And if there's like if there was like that offering to people that says, you know what, if you just want to have a little bit of money to do something, perhaps that would be a subtext, maybe subgroup that you work with.
I think that's a really good idea. I think that's not for right now as part of the discussion because that's, I
It
think.
came out of one of the things that she said.
I
Yeah,
think that's good. We will have note of that
Yeah.
too.
Of having like different levels of applications. Commissioner Board.
It is.
Just as far as, trying to organize, like, if there is, say, 3 that are being disputed, and we're trying to figure out how to make that process of deciding which one wins better. But if we did something where, yeah, maybe we submit our scores and Tia could tell us all which ones are being disputed, and then the commissioners that reviewed those ones can maybe give a little write-up of why they gave it their score and where they knocked off, so that the rest of the commissioners, instead of having to read the whole thing, they can just see what other commissioners thought of that.
I think that's as a starting
Just to
point.
clarify, would that be in addition to other comments that y'all are making, or just more of
I
like?
think
You
it was
just
more
provide a
just
summary of the comments you
Or
made.
just for other commissioners, so that way you don't have to go through the entire thing, so we can come a little bit before knowing what other commissioners were thinking, you don't have to go through the whole thing and not grading it.
I've had my little fingers in this grant for so long that I feel like the decision should be made by other people.
Okay.
I think I've put enough of like, this is my thing, so,
You're
I'm
amazing
fine
to have
with
along
it.
on this process.
anyway, want to.
I would recommend, yeah. And so, and that's why I like what
Yeah.
Commissioner Bourne just suggested. So I would recommend, maybe the summary from the reviewers on these contested grants. And then assigning 2 other commissioners to read through them and review them. So everybody can read the overview from the judges who reviewed it and try to understand why there's this difference of opinions. And then 2 other people can officially review it and score it.
Okay.
So that should give us a really good place
And
to
not
have an
necessarily,
educated.
so I think, would we keep the same existing timeline where they're due a few days after the October meeting still, and then it's just it would be via email essentially, like, hey, you're assigned one more application to review between now and the, you know, a few days before the November meeting. So it'd be like 2 to 3 weeks turnaround.
Yeah, so it's, if I understand correctly, you'll see it when there's some big dispute
Mhm.
between judges, and so you're gonna let two more people know, hey, we need two more judges on this one grant.
Yeah.
Okay,
But don't we have the opportunity to basically revise based on the questions that we ask and they give us responses and then we can revise like up until 2 days before our meeting? So how would that timeline work? If I'm revising
Yeah.
and then you're like, oh, well, there was a discrepancy, now you're assigning someone else to this proposal, but I'm still revising that anyway. Like, I feel like there's a
Might
lot
not
going on
have
here.
the Q&A, they have like a week to get back to
Mhm.
us, right? So I mean, all reviewers would need that information before they finalize their final score. So I would say we could still get the new reviewers, the Q&A answer, and even if the discrepancy changed, I think that's okay. Still,
We're also discussing, and I don't know if I'm going down the wrong road on this, again, you might say this is not the place for that discussion. I think some of the struggle also comes from the rubric itself. That there's a different understanding of some of the sustainability issues. Whether something is more valuable because it meets the needs of, well, let's say it meets the needs of children as opposed to meeting the needs of seniors, whatever the perspective is. That was there going to be some discussion made or some subcommittee that we're going to look at structuring the rubric differently, or are we going to stay with what it is right now?
we do have a broader discussion on the rubric itself, in a little bit, so I might put a pin in that because, yeah, I think there is.
Room for
probably-
discussion.
Yeah, room for discussion. Okay, let's finish this recap and then there's some other key questions, based off this recap that we still have to answer after. So, let's see, yeah, there was a suggestion to offer different funding amounts based on the tier system, including more people in the grant. Okay, we already read that. Okay, yeah, we're on the last ones. Reducing bias by limiting comments during the final voting meeting, which, yeah, the more I think about it, like, it is at the chair's discretion. So technically they could make a public comment during public comment, but not on things on the agenda item. And then the chair can decide whether to allow public participation and how much of it actually. So
What are you speaking of when you're talking about? You're talking about extraneous people doing the judging?
oh, there's
Last time,
a comment about, which
The grantees
Yeah,
came on and
came
gave a
on,
pitch
which
and
is very
effective, you know, and
She chimed in.
I've never missed a meeting. I missed that part of it though.
It was the one that was on the carpool, and she was on Teams.
Okay.
which I think up until now has been explicitly allowed and actually encouraged. So we just need to take that out if that's not.
But it was clear when it happened that it gave that applicant an unfair advantage. Only unfair because all the applicants couldn't necessarily join at that time and chime in. So,
It's a
that
competitive
said, do
process.
we want to still give them an opportunity to have a, because we ask questions, obviously, but I mean, is there a time to give everyone a chance to make their pitch ahead of the thing?
I
or
believe
Answer a question? or-
Did people used to make pitches? Do you remember? They've been before.
I mean, the pitch is the proposal, right? Like, that's a pitch.
Yeah.
Well, we definitely saw a big difference in the proposals though, and somebody might be able to, you know, explain it better than they could follow the rubric of the proposal process.
We did give a video option for folks.
And
Okay. And then the last one, moving away from SurveyMonkey. So on that other item, I think the majority of feedback that I've heard is that we will limit that during the meeting. Discuss that more later. Okay, so specific debrief questions. We just got into this quite a bit. Specifically, what could be improved in the review process if there is a discrepancy in scores? Did we just settle that?
I think I feel like we did.
Okay. We good?
So why don't you repeat back to us what we're gonna do?
Yeah.
And I always say that because we had a lot of discussion, but I would like to
Yeah.
hear some clarity regarding the steps. So there's a, could you tell us back what you think is gonna be like?
Yeah. What I think is that Scores are due at the regular time, like usually like Halloween-ish. And then I will identify in those next few days where there are scoring discrepancies. In the past, I have defined a scoring discrepancy as 10 or more. You want to maintain that as
Yes.
a threshold? Okay. Very good. And then if there is a scoring discrepancy, randomly assign 2 new commissioners to review that. No, by the final review deadline.
Okay, now defining a scoring discrepancy is there's 3 people reading them and 2 people have similar scores and the third person is at 10 points way off the other end. Is that what you're saying the discrepancy would be? And then you invite 2 more people to read that particular grant.
Yeah.
So then they can add more weight to the value of what that would look like.
Yeah, and then also in the, going into the meeting, I guess I'm still unclear, or am I asking for a separate summary from people, or I guess,
Only for the ones that have a large discrepancy, and it would just be for commissioners to read, so we can see their summary of what they.
especially for the ones that won't be reviewing it, since we don't want to ask everyone. Yeah, and then the question and answers as I will make people aware as they're reviewing, if they're new reviewers, if there's a question out that we're waiting on an answer for during that Q&A period. And as we get the answers in, I will send them to all reviewers.
In general, are we talking about the scores where they're up in the upper division? In other words, we had scores that were like 24 and then somebody else is like 14. If three
If
people
it's the
have,
last one and
yeah,
that
there's a
person.
couple that are pretty, we don't care about that. Is that right?
I think we should do it for, yeah, okay, like what if 2 people scored it really low and
Right.
1 person scored it really high?
Right, exactly.
And it's like scoring the last one.
Right.
We want to do that.
Do we want to bother with that?
No, only if it's really close to being in the ones that are awarded.
Okay, if I could look at the points, because I can't tell if it's,
That's why I wanted to bring that up, because you don't need to do it for every time that there's a discrepancy between 3.
You can, but if people are still adjusting their scores based on question and answer, I don't think it's fair to
True.
not. Like I said, this is getting really complicated.
yeah.
Can I propose a little bit of a different idea? What if for the people with a big discrepancy, you ask those people to take a look at it again? You're like, hey, Kristen, you scored really low. Will you reread it and see if you missed anything? Hey, Tom, you scored really high. Will you reread it and see if you were inflated? And like, that just feels way less complicated
That's
and
fair.
also allows everyone the same opportunity to still update based on their Q&A without it interfering with this system of adding new grant reviewers into the.
Yeah.
I don't know, that's just all of a sudden there was like 10 new moving pieces that seemed really complicated to keep track of.
Would be.
And I know I was like, I'm out of it, but I
Honest.
do have it.
So the Q and A though, doesn't the Q and A end when you're collecting everybody's scores?
It
The
would be
Q
like
and A
a
is,
few days before.
the Q and A is over by then. So I don't think that we should be assigning new grant
I
reviewers.
don't think we should ever sign any.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to vote. First, I'm not gonna like vote. I want everyone else to do it, but I just think that sounds incredibly complicated for Tia and for everybody.
I have never, at least since I've been running it, explicitly asked people to re-review or like quote unquote called out their discrepancy beforehand.
I say, how frequently did it really happen on this cycle that we had? I know, I was part of one, but was that the only one that was that big of a
I think we
difference?
talked about like 4 or 5.
This cycle was pretty similar to the last cycle. There
I
were
agree.
several in the last cycle that were like,
Big
"Then why did we
difference.
do that?" It's
It's like
very,
a
it was very
handful or
similar.
less that.
Yeah,
They were highlighted on the spreadsheet beforehand.
they were highlighted.
So like maybe it's an additional task, to say, okay, which I think it was kind of a soft ask, but maybe more of an intentional. Please review everyone that's highlighted because you were a discrepancy score, had a discrepancy.
Well,
score.
the thing though is.
We could
that
try
sometimes
that
discrepancies
as the
aren't used.
easier option this route, and if not, debrief and say, let's try the other route. Should we do that?
Yeah.
Your proposal that Kristen had?
That's the thing, you might get, community members, like people that are applying, that might be upset that their proposal only got reviewed by 3 people and someone else's proposal got reviewed by 5 people.
Yeah.
I know we're taking averages, but like the
Yeah.
perception of what that looks
Yeah,
like, why were 5 sets of eyes on my proposal and 3 sets of eyes on someone else's?
Yeah.
So that could be a negative feedback that you
Yeah.
might see if we're trying to be more equitable in this process in general.
Thank you. Those are really good points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like your suggestion.
Roger, what do you think? I haven't heard from you.
Well, my original thought was if there's a big discrepancy to have 2 more reviewers look at it and score it, just to balance out. You know, it's easy to, if 2 people think it scores really high and 1 person thinks it scores really low, and I don't know why I looked at Tom on.
That's how it worked out.
But I mean, I'm willing to admit that, you know, I could have a misconception about what this is all about, and I don't want to wait it. I would rather have someone else come in and look and say, you know, Roger just, he doesn't really understand what he's supposed to be doing here. Instead of, you know, have somebody tell me, look, rescore it. You make sure you understand what, and you know, that's what I did originally.
Yeah, right. That's my kind of hesitation with it is I did it once and I did it to, you know, with my best intention. So if there's a big difference, let's talk about it.
There was 2 years ago, just to add to this, 2 years ago, there was like a reviewer that like were way lower than everyone else. And I think maybe particularly in that situation, it would not be worth everyone's time to have 2 more eyes on all of those applications. It'd be worth me sitting down with that reviewer and say like, talk me through how you're looking at this. And like, I'll talk you through how I'd look at this. So
I also think using the comment section is something we should be doing a lot more of than we did before. I know you do.
everyone was required to do that this year and I
Well,
think everyone did a lot.
I don't feel like I did very
And we all noticed that.
You don't have to self-incriminate.
I mean, all I could thought, I felt like saying, I think it's pretty self-evident. I don't need to say anything.
Well, I don't read all of them through like in the same way you all do. I read them through in a different lens, like, is this eligible? Will this ruin a relationship? Like, I don't, you know, so
Somebody out there wonder if we're really saving the planet at
we
all.
really do need, yeah, the comments are really helpful, yeah.
I think there's a point to be made that if we hone the rubric further or additionally, that like there's likely to be, you know, less discrepancies in the scoring because it's easier to score,
Yeah,
you
that's
know,
true.
or more straightforward. So
Great point.
yeah, just keeping that in mind that, you know, if the rubric is, you know, better or honed a little further, then like, you know, either there will be less discrepancies or
Yes.
that score won't change very much. It could be like a bias or something.
Great point. Okay, so we're going to, what was the conclusion there? There's a lot of back and forth.
Took out the idea of extra people reading, first of all, so you can take that, reduce that concept.
I like your point, Tia, about how different people have different ideas of the value of a point. You know, so that 1 person that you gave the example of just scored lower across the board. And I agree that clarifying the rubric would help with those kind of discrepancies.
Yeah.
It would make it more clear why somebody's getting scored a 3.
And like, did you just suggest that like that the point or the theme of someone's application, the reviewer might look at it and say, oh, this doesn't fit this grant very well, and so all their scores are a little lower than normal? Is that what was suggested, right? So like, I know one of the rubric categories that kind of came up that's not currently a category is the spirit, kind of the spirit of the grant. And so if that became a category, you know, like maybe they could, you know, box that feeling or those points into that space rather than across the board, if that's the case.
Interesting.
I think we did have a,
We did.
we took out the
Dave loved the
general.
spirit of the grant.
Oh, there used to be one. Oh, interesting.
Was that the version where it was like, does this match the vision of the Sustainability Commission? Yes.
That question.
We did,
It was like
we
a,
took that issue out.
yeah.
I just know that
It
came
let
up
you
in the
put your
conversation.
personal
It did come up
opinion
in the
into grant form.
conversation. But I mean, again,
My fingers are out. You want to put it back in? I'm not
do we
gonna
want to vote? I
stop
feel
you.
like there's two options out here. Do we want to vote on what's happening, what this is?
The
Like a-
problem with that notion though
Informal.
is that it's, that the spirit of something is, is a little, is not what you call objective. I mean, that would be like, you know, almost like saying, do you think it's a pretty activity?
Yeah,
You have to like define.
let's hold off. We have a couple more questions to get through until we talk about the rubric, and then we'll talk about the rubric and specific. Well, I guess we are getting into the specific language, but I want to settle this specifically before we move on.
So are the two different options, the one that's brings in additional reviewers or one that just requests existing reviewers to re-examine?
Yes,
their score?
those are the options. Thank you.
And are we sticking with like summaries?
Yeah, I think the summaries would be, simple enough for both the rounds.
The thing that I recall the most that struck me as least qualitative, it's not a good word, but it's the things that coming up with, was that, for example, you had a grantee on, this is just the best grant I've ever heard in my life. And I'm looking at my grant going, well, if you are that much in love with your grant, I'm willing to let go of what I liked. And I'm not sure that was the best format. And I think what was missing there was I hadn't read that grant that you thought was so wonderful. So I was, I'm giving, that's what we started doing is negotiating. Well, since you are so profoundly believing in that particular, I'm willing to give up my grant. And I think what needed to happen in my mind was that we should have been reading the other grants. That's what we're back to. You get those top three that are iffy, everybody reads those iffy grants. So then when we have some dialogue and discussion as a commission, we can actually bring some positions.
So now you're talking about the ones right on the funding line.
Yes.
Not the scoring discrepancies necessarily.
I'm talking about the funding line.
And that's kind of why I was saying the summaries would help. Like that way, someone who hasn't read it, and in your example, you haven't read it, but you read my summary, and kind of go back to the grant and give it a brief.
Yes,
over.
because the summary, it would be a summary of the grant. And yeah, that's a great idea for the ones on the line too, because we're always kind of scrambling, like pull up the grant, like what is this grant about? Let me remember.
It'd be like this.
Front loaded before we come to the meeting.
That's even something like I could do, although I wouldn't be able to talk about it necessarily.
So what you're suggesting is that you've read good grant. You've read the grant about the bicycle chains on Fort Tuttle, and you think, wow, this is great. We need to have a bicycle. We need to have a bicycle stand at Fort Tuttle. This is fabulous. And what you're suggesting is that you write in your summary, this is a really good grant because it's obviously an alternative to transportation, blah, 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 blah. So you give your rationale for why you really love that grant.
Yeah,
That's what I'm supposed to read is why you loved it. I don't necessarily need to read the whole grant. Is that what you're saying?
yes. Exactly.
For the ones on the line.
Yeah.
On the funding line.
But we're not figuring that out until like 3 days before we meet.
I mean, I don't think it would have to be like super long. You could reach out to the ones that are close and say, hey, can you give a little 2-paragraph writing on this? Or
I think we can discuss this piece in the future, like what's in that summary. Is it a summary of the grant? Is it a summary of why you gave the score you did? I don't really know if that's necessary if you make the comments still.
That's a good point.
But I think there should be a summary of the grant for folks too, at least, but. Okay, are we doing a little vote?
And what are our options? Our options are to,
Additional readers will be
Carlson.
reviewed for the
Mr.
same readers.
Carlson.
The two different ones are to bring in potentially 2 new reviewers if there's discrepancies, or to request existing reviewers that had scores that were discrepancies to re-examine their score. There's a chance we could also do a hybrid approach, like, do the simpler one, and if that doesn't resolve it, then,
Well, I would submit, I think logic has been put forward that having 2 additional readers is not a good plan, so I think we should just take that out as an option. I think we should do that.
The more complicated.
I agree with you. It's less than 5 people read mine.
Yeah.
Wow, that's not a good plan. You're right there. It's like, so that.
Okay,
that's
so-
no longer an option. I think we should have-
The options, yeah, what's 1 and 2, and then we'll raise hands.
I mean, I was gonna propose that we vote to do the simpler approach that Commissioner Conkle suggested, that we just request the reviewers that have discrepancy scores to, re-examine, and then with like kind of like a side note, that if that doesn't resolve it, we can address that then, like we need to, so. Because I think it might iron out something.
Everyone raise your hand if you want to go with that option.
There's only one option.
Yeah.
And now the other options.
No, the second option is the 2 reviewers. So this is.
2 additional.
Yeah.
I think that Commissioner Conkle's point that's getting into like an inequitable review process has validity to it. So I worry about that. I also, what's being proposed is essentially what we did, except the difference is that those scores were reevaluated by the reviewers in real time in our meeting. And so, there is a chance that if somebody had the time to sit down and reevaluate the grant, they might adjust their viewpoints. But I do, like, if you are both saying I scored it, and this is what happened in our
And I-
discussion.
this goes
This
back
is
to
exactly
the
what
rubric,
happened,
too.
so.
Like, I think there is, yeah, I also think the rubric is a key thing
Mhm.
here, like and I think one thing I'm really interested in doing throughout the application more is like check marks. Just like really clearly, are you meeting this, this, and this? Explain below, like you can set that application up more clearly and be able to address those discrepancies better in that way. If we structure the application even clearer too.
Okay.
Um,
So I think this has been a valuable discussion because what we've come around to is that the best way to solve this problem might be to not restructure our review process, but to restructure the rubric and the application to make them easier for everyone to very clearly score, check boxes. And if we come up with a discrepancy like this, let's make sure that our timeline is early enough that if we end up with something like this, we have a chance to respond in real time. And we have this conversation to inform whatever we decide to do. I think that clarifying both on the application side and the rubric side will get us a long way away from this conversation.
That's great.
Well, and in the end, you can't be afraid of having a discussion, even
No.
if it's, you're on different poles with what
No,
you're
exactly.
thinking about, so.
And I will reiterate that I thought that discussion for how polarized it was went really well. I was really
Well, there's,
proud of this commission.
and I would submit that that there's something negative in a way about the notion of contacting someone and saying, would you like to read your questions? Look at your points. I mean, no.
That's certainly what has stopped me in the past.
Right. It's,
But I think,
it doesn't feel like good form. And then the point is,
informed
you
now.
have read,
Yeah.
and the other thing too is all of the commission members at this time have done it once already, so it's nobody that's brand new to it. We did add a couple little doodads with, 5 points for this, if it's cultural diversity, blah, 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 we added that little thing. But at this point, we've all been through the process, so we should have much more comfort and if comes down to, I'm standing up for those chairs, by God, I'm gonna.
I can't believe you didn't let us do that one.
Those poor chairs.
They
That
have
person needed
tables
those
and
chairs for
chairs
that
now.
project. I'm sorry, I'm just.
Is it
so
good for
sorry.
saver?
What?
No, I think they don't.
Even better. It's fine.
Yeah, Chair Waller.
Okay, so,
A good point.
yeah,
Yeah, let's wrap this.
Yeah.
so I think we might be done with this
Yeah.
one.
I think so.
Okay, I think, but I think that was good.
I saved you from having to call anybody and say, do you think you like?
No, I am doing that. I am still doing that.
Yeah, I think it's,
Didn't do it to me. You
it
never called
it
me.
informs
No,
a
I
reviewer
didn't in the past.
to know where they stand amongst the other ones.
Yeah,
So,
especially before going in, like,
Yeah.
you don't wanna like blindside, it's, yeah. Side of the coin. Okay. This next question is pretty big. So is there any specific language or questions in the guidelines for application that we should change? I I have a friend that works at an environmental center and we recently found out that we run pretty similar grant programs.
Oh, that's nice.
His is specific to like waste projects. And I was going through and I was like, wow, these are all things that we thought about too, like a lot of these things. I have no idea. This was something I just found out last few days, so I don't know what their scoring process is like. But I really wanted to share their application, which is just right on their website. It's a fillable form and see if there's anything that like looks cool that we might want to take over.
Are we gonna look at the screen? You're gonna put it up there?
I will, yes.
I have to go for closer. I don't have the right glasses.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, so this is their Community Innovation Fund application as part of their Rethink Waste program.
I like the title.
Yes. Also have a Spanish application. So their form is built into this website, which we are gonna move away from SurveyMonkey. We just got a new engagement platform at the city and we're gonna be building probably the application into there. And it is much newer and nicer, so hopefully it could even look something like this, maybe. Okay. Applicant details, pronouns optional. I like that because I don't wanna like misgender, like use someone's wrong pronouns when I'm talking to them and. We ask, how did you hear about it? That's a nice drop down. Okay, project overview. We try to zoom. You can see what they're doing.
So, will your project take place in or impact? That's interesting.
Just a little confirmation. What areas will your project take place in? That's almost getting into like some of that data demographics question we wanted to know about.
I think that's really interesting because sometimes on some more of the broad applications, like I think of one that was from NAU and they're like, it'll impact NAU and the broader community. It's kind of like,
Which is really just a garden at NAU.
but would they actually check every, part of the community?
Yeah, I don't actually know what we would list.
Mhm.
Parts of it.
That'd be.
We only have one city.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, but you also have in this frame the kind of, is it water, is it waste, is it food, is it, I mean, that's a different.
That
type
could
of
be
thing.
Different, yeah.
They have to choose.
You have to just like. The address, okay, project title. I do like this clarification. This will be used in all marketing communications. That would be helpful. Sometimes I also want to provide like a word limit or character limit because they get really long and marketing communications can get to be much. Project details, big picture goals you have to accomplish. We have a very similar question.
Is this actually the source of their application? So the people are entering live here and that rolls up into a
Yeah,
form or
and
something?
then there's like a button that you can like save your progress even down below, but it does give a caveat, like work on another one for longer answers. like another page.
Look, they even give them an example of what you want to say. The Environmental Center works to embed sustainability into daily life.
Yeah,
Cut this and paste it anywhere.
well, they,
So we just keep everybody in the same order, how they're addressing the different things.
The reusable dishware program at the Environmental
Yes,
Center.
it is.
for free dishware.
however, it is easier because they only have one.
Yeah.
No area of
Right.
one category.
You could use this as your example because obviously we don't have an environmental center. Here's an example of what we're looking for here.
Kind of that. What specific activities or actions will you take to accomplish the goals, results you described above? Please include a simple timeline. Have the timeline. Number what? Mary, do you have the application handy in paper?
Yes, right there.
I don't think we really had a timeline question, did we? I mean, it just sort of assumed within this year or specific
Kind
time.
of was like a budget.
Yeah.
You should have a paper copy of the grant. Actually, do you want it? Yeah, you have one.
Pass them around. You want to pass them around?
Or the more stapled together?
Well, these are examples of grants. Yeah, these are the ones that I looked at, and wrote on, and this is what I thought we should have there. So
Do you think this will be ready for this cycle? I mean, the new platform you're talking about?
here's the green. You want-
Yeah, it's
you want-
already out. Yeah,
you want to fill in the application?
which is a good, yeah.
There you go, Mark, good dreams.
There you go.
Okay, I'm just gonna keep rolling through these, and if you see anything you like, upload project timeline, I think,
Is this what you wanted people to see? This grant project goals and category?
no, yeah, these applications.
So you want an actual example? Okay.
Okay. Okay, this is a question I think we should consider possibly moving out of that other community question. We'll see these. This would of course impact the rubric, so there's always pros and cons. So does this project include components that meet the needs and include the voices of individuals who are most often impacted by environmental degradation and climate change, including Black, Indigenous, and people of color? People who are LGBTQ+, people with diverse abilities, and people and families with low incomes. If yes, please tell us more about these components of your project.
So are we risking funding at this point if we
No,
go
not-
down that road? You know,
We
with the
don't
D.
have federal, no,
This
this
This is not any federal money.
this is not federal.
Maybe a swinging sledgehammer out there that we aren't noticing.
So
That's
this,
true.
this is the question that's not currently asked on ours, but it is
Maybe
kind of a,
somebody-
it's kind of in the rubric though, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've got it.
It's in the rubric,
It's the marginalized in.
We had that in the rubric.
Yeah,
yes,
it's like
the
you can
points that
double
they did.
point or something or get.
but it would be a
extra
lot
points.
easier to score if there was a question that specifically asked the applicant to explain that.
Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah,
it was
then-
kind of an assumed thing.
Right.
Or,
It's a judgment call based on who's reviewing it at this point, and that's what you're scoring it on.
Well, I like the point that it's connected to the environment, that people are.
Yep.
People are more impacted by environmental issues. That's what we're all about.
Okay, and then, so kind of the other version of our current community question is this question. Are there coworkers, other organizations, volunteers, et cetera, that you will collaborate with to complete project activities? If yes, list your collaborators here. Tell us if you have already secured commitments for these collaborations or how you plan to get them. And so right now, there's those three community kind of goals: building community partnerships, managing or engaging volunteers, and then also engaging with marginalized communities or diverse populations. That's very summarized of that one.
I'm not sure I'm crazy about that phrase or phraseology. It makes sense that if they're gonna say to them, we think you should have these, so therefore name them or how you're gonna get there.
Yeah,
This just says, do you have any? If not, how are you gonna get there?
yeah,
So,
agreed.
I
Yeah.
think that the question we have currently in ours looks like it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I guess, would you all support pulling out the like marginalized community specific one and having it be
Yes,
this one?
Yes.
basically?
this is much better written.
I I still like the community partners question. I think they should be separate.
For sure, yeah. Okay, yeah. And then just kind of pull that community partners and make it more, still clear that it's a requirement.
Yeah.
So and then would they be one of those then kind of like the building community partnerships or volunteers?
I'm sorry, I don't get your question.
I understand what you're saying.
We're
So,
saying to them, we want you to have partnerships or coordinate, so to describe what they are, that's basically.
or like volunteers or work with volunteers to complete their project.
I should say volunteers qualify for this particular fit aspect.
Oh, I was thinking they're a little different because sometimes, if it's school and their students are their volunteers or whatever, then like, it's not the same approach as having community, involved actively.
An captive audience, yeah.
Like, I think they could be, you just separate them,
Yeah.
keep them simple. Be like community partners and then like,
We're talking about this one, isn't that correct? Isn't that what we're talking about? Are there co-workers, volunteers, et cetera, that you will collaborate with?
Well, currently they're the same question in our application. So we're talking about the proposal to split them up. And then what do we keep in that community partners one essentially?
I think this is a good way to describe it as in terms of a separate one, because it's saying co-workers. I mean, when you're bringing together a community, it doesn't necessarily have to be
sure.
the separate people from some other environment. It could be somebody within your own frame.
Yeah, I guess
You're-
that's a good point that if they choose to say that their community frame of reference is their smaller community,
Yeah.
their micro community.
Yeah.
And they list that, like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's worth less points or something like that.
Well, I was gonna say, it's almost, these are just become yes, nos, you check these boxes or you
That's what
don't,
you're looking
because
for, basically.
how do you grade 1 to 5? Well, you had a handicapped person and a black person, so you get, 3 points. And you only had, a woman, so you only get 1 point. That makes all these communities, so.
Oh, I meant kind of the
He's talking about
coworker.
this one.
Well,
Organization.
yeah, I mean, how do you grade A?
Sure.
Basically, you're saying here, it's not just you. There's
Yeah.
somebody else that's working with you.
Feeling all of Mary's.
Chickens.
Getting a second life on
Must
this
be
new
you.
farm. Okay. Okay. Can we move from that one?
Yeah.
There's a lot more to talk about. How much funding are you requesting? Which project can be awarded up to 5,000? There's
I like this layout too. It's so much better than that other layout we have. Yeah.
Well, it kind of it forces people to follow the structure, so you can get output will be easier to deal with.
This is an interesting separate question. We don't explicitly ask, will future funding or other support be necessary to sustain project results? I guess it's just kind of like in our budget question.
We can ask that, don't we? Like, how long, what's the lifespan of this or something
We
along?
do
those lines?
ask, I think, where we have project longevity, yeah.
That's one of the things in the rubric.
Well, do we ask if they'll have other financial support? I think that would be a good
Explicitly.
question to ask.
Do we
because
put that in our budget prompt?
I think if somebody has an endowment they're working out of, Lowell Observatory, we have this endowment we're working out of, but we really would like $500 for you to buy another chair or something. It's like, all that money, you don't need this $500.
Having
One
other
could say that
money.
for like the
It
arbor.
does say and include additional funding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or NAU.
And then I like this, there are
Somebody who already owns an acupuncture.
already having to agree to the award acceptance process, progress reports, final reports, kind of. And they're really explicit.
Like that
Guidelines,
too.
too.
Progress report.
Progress reports, interesting, yes.
I think that's all I understand.
I don't think we're giving out enough money to fire departments.
Yeah, I think we can ask, but they don't.
So much at the time that it takes to put a good report together.
Well, they have to do that final report. That seems.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
And then what we're organizing for next week.
Yeah.
Like, they have to live.
Of course, they are Lowell Observatory. They have that.
Okay. thanks for going through that.
That was very interesting. Thank you for bringing it to us.
Yes. And, you know, if you ever see any other applications too out there, there's probably a lot.
The environmentalist communities have network of organizations and concerned.
We do. We have Sustainability Directors Network that we.
That's a good question.
On the way up.
But yeah, I'm wondering if she was gonna have to give $30 million to somebody.
I think it's good.
Elijah has a question.
I guess this is just like in response to this question being asked. Part of me, I felt like when I was reviewing it, you know, there was the thing that was pointing things in the direction. So for this part of the rubric, refer to question 8 or whatever. I felt like for me, either the people that are filling out the application need to be aware that that's the question we're looking at for that part of the rubric, or just get rid of it for us, because then there might have been an answer that filled, that was for that part of the rubric, but it wasn't in question 8. And then because of that, I might have scored it lower. But the person that was doing the application wasn't even aware that you were supposed to look at question 8.
Let's do on some of these rubrics.
Right, like have one question for each rubric.
Exactly, yeah, like, because we were aware that question 8 was for this part of the rubric of the people.
Another thing that's really appropriate to do is include the rubric that we're gonna
Absolutely.
use to judge it, to score it.
That's very.
But it is available? Okay. Okay.
Okay.
And what prevents someone from like, pulling that up and then answering every question, or at least like, you know, written wise,
That's how they should do it.
even if it's, you know, not as, even though the integrity, you know.
That's true.
We're gonna talk with these people, you know,
I mean,
I'm
having
curious,
a
like.
clear rubric is like a really, like important for equity, so that we're reducing bias. So I hear what
Anything-
you're saying, because, you know, sometimes you get really good grant writers, but they also tend to be solid projects too.
You're saying if anything, it helps those that don't do grants very often to say, oh, I need to incorporate this in my application.
That's the goal,
Nice. Okay, cool.
but not to say, I think we could change it, but.
I was correct.
I'm talking about the category specific objectives.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, like,
They're just like hard to reference, or
there were certain ones I'm trying to remember. Like, if you just give me a second, I'll pull up the email you sent us that had our scoring. I'll show you what I'm talking about.
And how are we, Tia, how are we doing on the items we have to get through? Because our block of time is evaporating.
I think we could continue this conversation next time as well.
Was there gonna be like last year, we had a working group to look at the application and view the rubric.
Okay, I found it,
We might need.
Commissioner.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it. So it's like associated with specific question. Question 12, question 12, question 8 and 13, sort of. Question 11 and threaded throughout. Question 14, question 19, question 15, question 10, 22, 23 and throughout. Like it was a lot of jumping around.
So like, I was
Because of
being
that
pointed
word.
towards those answers, but the people filling out the application might not have known that I was being pointed to that
Got it.
answer.
Mhm.
But they did have the rubric.
Yeah, but I don't know, I guess I felt like for certain ones, it was specifically supposed to be answered in question 12. And then that part of the rubric wasn't answered in question 12, it was answered in question 18. So because of that, I had to skip around their answers to find that score.
I agree. I think it'd be really nice if we have 7 evaluation things on a rubric, to have 7 questions, one
Alignment.
that's specific, and then
Sure.
That's great.
it might just be more consistent scoring that way.
And we'd have better dialogue afterwards because we can say.
Be really easy to reference things, we talk about it.
Okay, why don't we don't have a lot of time left. Maybe we should talk about setting up a working group.
Oh, I knew you were gonna go there.
I,
A subcommittee, we need a subcommittee.
That's what we did last year anyway, was we
could
said,
also
we
hold
recognize
off
this isn't
until
gonna be a.
until the
Good.
April meeting, and then decide
whether or
Have
not we
one
need a
more.
working group.
team discussion, but.
That's decided at our birthday meeting. Kind of poignant then, huh?
Talk about that.
How much more time do you think this topic and the decisions associated
Show you
require?
what else I have really quick. Blow up.
Go up
Oh,
there
I got
again. Does it go up there
left
again?
You're in 427.
Well, I keep like duplicating
Okay.
stuff, so it's like every NSG presentation I've ever given to you is in this deck, so. This is categories, and so I want us to look at these. What trends or takeaways do you see? So on the left-hand side, that's from this most recent cycle. That right-hand column in that first table is the number of applications by category, and then that middle column is the number of applications funded in that category, and then the category name on the left-hand side. And so you'll see 5 of 6 resilience applications were funded, and we received no public health and no building energy applications. And then again, like 1 of 4 transportation, 1 of 4 waste, 1 of 4 climate actions were funded, and 2 of 7. And then the broader trends are on the right. I know it's really small. The key thing is these, percent awarded over time. So you can see the percentages, and that includes this most recent cycle. So the lowest is the climate action category. I will say that of course touches on a lot of different categories, but something to really keep in mind for sure. Building energy is the next lowest. I know last round we received 2 applications and didn't fund either. I really think that one is tougher to get those community points in, is the building projects. I
don't remember an example
There's
of a building project.
one, it would be like the Sago Lily, a community land trust applied for windows retrofit,
Oh, yeah.
and then the Cocoa Op applied for like heat pumps. And then
Wanted
the one that
chairs.
has been funded was the Harbor Chapel lighting project. And then the next lowest tide is waste and transportation. So
The thing about resilience, though,
Yeah.
it seems to me like it's a more vague and broader umbrella, and people just kind of like stick everything under that. And maybe we should be saying things to the applicants. We are looking for, you're addressing the climate action. Look for it. What are you doing that's going to affect climate action?
So, yeah, I'll just run you through. We're not going to answer these today, but these are some of the questions. Do all of these categories have the same chance given the rubric? If not, how could we adjust the rubric to be fair? Should we consider measures to increase the diversity of the categories of funded projects? Do we have to put a cap on the number of projects in a category funded? Or can we revise, we should do this anyways, is revise the project ideas. People keep applying for projects that are in our listed project ideas, and then we don't fund them, and which has to do with the project. And I think we just need to revise those project ideas.
Environmentally, do we think all things are equal? As a community, do we think all things are equal? Are all things equal?
Well, I think
Like all
we
those
have,
categories?
Yeah.
do we need all?
Probably
those?
not.
We have carbon neutrality goals that are really ambitious, and
So that's not, that would be at the top of a list, right? That's
I
what I'm
mean,
saying.
but our carbon neutrality, our carbon, we have 3 goals in our carbon neutrality plan. That's mitigation, resilience, and equity too. So,
I go back to that
And that
vagueness
is on
about
the
resilience.
and that is on the
Resilience
rubric.
there.
that is on the climate action question. Yeah. I do think we could add some little check marks maybe to that. And then are we satisfied with the scoring rubric as is? That's going into non-category questions. So just to keep moving. Is there anything else we can do to make the application easier and more accessible? A couple of those low hanging fruits we've already talked about is the new survey platforms or check boxes and drop downs for the online application.
I just, I'm sorry to go back.
Casey study.
Case study. Case studies.
I just want to go back to thinking about resilience, because I didn't think that was a problem we had, that resilience is all over the place. Maybe it's climate resilience. Such as relevant. Because resilience feels like it could be anything from community resilience to.
It can be.
Well, it is,
Like,
yeah.
specifically.
I went to Wells Fargo a couple of weeks ago and they have a resilience approach to banking.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, is it like
Investment.
community resilience right now?
See that word popping up everywhere.
Okay. Okay.
It's the broad
Well,
context.
so
of
that
the
is
word.
noted and taken down. And then ideally at some point, we can visit the equity assessment. We did, I think the last time we all looked at that was like June or July of last year. And we spent like 5 months going through that all together. And I didn't pull the exact stats, but we were able to implement a lot of those recommendations. And I definitely worked with my supervisor, Jenna, and I to like increase those recommendations too. And we had adopted almost 50% of those recommendations in some way. And we have more recommendations in progress or things noted for next cycle that we should talk about at some point.
No,
Okay.
that you work really hard.
Working group. Do we want to do that today or next time?
We should talk about this like quickly, I think. Just the fact
I
that,
would just take that.
yeah, Tia and I talked about this when we had our agenda setting meeting,
Yeah.
and my opinion is different after this discussion.
Agreed. I would
So,
100% agree.
yeah, so,
We originally were gonna propose not having a working group this year, but
yeah.
yeah.
Tia
You said
had
Tia.
suggested that she could handle edits based on our conversation, and we wouldn't
Well, I
need
think
a
you
more
can.
working group.
Well, it's not just the edits, it's the conversation. to
Yeah.
get to the edits,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, and so we absolutely need a working group, I think.
We put both the things in front of the working group, I mean, the application and the
I think
grading
they go
sheet.
hand in hand.
So they're
Yep.
Yes.
holistic on those.
So Tia, you had proposed deciding on the working group at the next meeting and
Yeah.
finishing this conversation.
Yeah, I'll be honest, we have our birthday celebration.
Yeah,
I have, I have NSG coming up, I have the Innovate Green Business Pitch Competition is coming up, so I'm not gonna have the capacity to even help facilitate that meeting until the next.
This notion of this that was mentioned earlier, that there's this way to put the application and the rubric together. Do we really need a working committee for that? Can that just be something that?
The working group is gonna finish answering all these questions that we don't get to.
So working group. Figure out if we need a working
If
group.
that, then we're gonna sit and talk and be a working group.
I think we're gonna table that until next time.
No worries.
Okay,
so we will table establishing a working group.
I mean, I
until-
guess we could still establish it today. There's still an open working group for the NSG event technically that we need to wrap up too, and probably have a review of the event.
Let's table this until next month. Tia's very busy, I heard her say.
Yes.
Well, that's gonna be a big ask on the working group to go through those things
It
in
is,
that
yeah.
detail, so.
Which ideally we, hold the more discussion time next time to get through more of those together.
Yeah.
I would like to make a recommendation and hear everybody's brief feedback on this. How about if we just kind of think as commissioners about the things we've talked about today, the application, the rubric, and, just like noodle on that a little bit and put 15 minutes,
Yeah.
20, knowing us, on the agenda next time to talk about key ideas we would like the working group to focus on and establish the working group. And that way we're all bringing our ideas and thoughts to the table, but removing the bulk of these discussions from our commission meetings, because we could talk about this forever. Does anybody have comments or?
The only question I have is relative to the application that Tia showed us. Is it feasible for us to take that and just say, yeah, let's use this, and then work through that? No, we're gonna have a subcommittee talk about that application.
I was mostly just trying to display that, mainly that question. And to show that we are doing really great work, like we've thought of like all the same things other people have.
I think that that's something that, you know, you could look at between now and the next meeting, and maybe that's your recommendation, is that we align our application with this one. It sounds like the format will be changing anyway, so yeah, just think about what's important to you and like maybe come with a few key things that you feel would really improve the process and the equity. And then we'll give it to the working group and we'll figure that out. And also think about how invested you are in this and whether you'd like to be on the working group, because that's gonna be a big lift.
Tia, do you mind going back to some of those main questions that were unanswered still?
Can I send them via email?
Sure.
I'll do that. Okay. So, 4 commissioners have volunteered to be at the Earth Day celebration to talk about the neighborhood sustainability grant. And subsequently talk about the commission too, as commissioners. And if you want to talk about this at all, about the purpose of these tables.
That's nice.
That's why you thank you after that whole meeting. Bless your heart.
I love being a fly on the wall to hear these conversations, and it's wonderful to hear the lively and engaged communication this commission has. So I think it's pretty impressive. So it's fun. So Earth Day celebration. I've been. My name is Stephen Thompson. I serve as a manager within the sustainability division, and I have been the coordinator for the annual Earth Day celebration since 2022. And it's come a long way even since then due to the involvement and growth of our staff. And it's an amazing event. Never been to it. It's just a lot of fun. And I'm really thankful and grateful that there are folks in the commission that have the time and capacity to attend the event and have a table to highlight the work that you all do throughout the year, which funds many projects throughout the community, helps inform a lot of really great decisions. And I think this is a great opportunity to spread awareness about the work you do and just get more people involved, build that awareness. And I think highlighting some of the neighborhood sustainability grants is a great way to get more robust applications every year. And there's a million different ways that we can have a interactive display at Earth Day to highlight your work and the work that's been done by community members and organizations this group has funded. So I see that there's like a couple options up there that Tia has made mention of. And yeah, I think my biggest question is what you all hope to gain from having this sort of engagement with random community members who are just, some people show up just because they're like, oh, I didn't know this was happening, but it's a public park, so I'm gonna do my park things usually, or anything like that. Then there are people who are like, yeah, I'm gonna be here for a couple hours, and who have no idea who's all gonna be attending. So what do you hope to gain from that? And that, I think that can really help focus activities and things like that. My background is in environmental education and environmental interpretation. I was a park ranger for about a decade. Had many different parks. We can talk. I have like 20 different jobs that I can spend an hour talking about. But lots of different tools and techniques, and I can help craft ideas. But what's the goal? That's really my biggest question.
So you're asking us that?
I'm asking you, yeah.
I would think it would be to engage young people and help them understand that their planet is their future.
Okay.
I would say same goes to all their
Well, that's the problem. And then I guess to narrow that down a little bit, what parts of the work that you all do would you like to connect people with?
I'd like to connect people with the idea that all voices in the community matter and have the opportunity to be involved and influence how things go in our city. So maybe ways, yeah, I would love everybody to recognize that there's opportunity for,
Yeah.
that their opinions, efforts matter, make a difference.
And maybe like demonstrate what involvement looks like, right? It doesn't have to be something massive. You can volunteer to our recycling for a commission, or you can do a project, or you can do public funds, you know.
So we're looking at posters now? We're talking about building posters.
I think along with
We just
the,
have one.
educating them on what the commission is up to and sustainability division, like, talking about these high level things with like the regional plan and the cap and like these things that are highly influential for the greater community and also have a huge intersection with sustainability and climate action that like, to maybe it can be a catalyst for them to like, be involved in how they can be involved in these coming months. Since there's some big decisions to be made and we need the public involved.
Absolutely.
So like, might be coming to a sustainability commission or like making public comments here to support what we, either advise or write to the city council, or they come to the city council. Like, I know those are the two main ways. Probably good.
Or they can write to their council members or
Exactly.
write to the mayor.
Take out an ad paper.
Just to synthesize some of those ideas, from what I'm hearing, like a big focus being on how can people actually get involved and be engaged? How can they specifically get involved with this group? And the long-term impacts of that engagement, right? So those are like some of the three big ideas that I'm hearing, and I love it. It makes sense to me, and I think there's a lot of different opportunities. And like the table on one of the who's tabled at events, outreach stuff before. Okay, so you have experience in that space of like, yeah, sometimes there's nobody around, sometimes you're overwhelmed with like the number of people. And so having like a couple different things going on is kind of nice. And as far as like something that is more conversational, like here is this brochure, here's some information, da, 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 da. We can talk about the regional plan. It involves scan this QR code, blah, 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 those types of things. And then having like some sort of standalone activity or activities is super beneficial in this sort of setting, especially if primary focus of the event is show me, don't tell me. So we try and not have like as many giveaway items or pamphlets of materials and stuff like that that will end up in the trash or in the recycling bin. So everyone who tables at this event have to have some sort of interactive educational display or exhibit, and that's the primary focus. So having something that is standalone and easy, that someone can walk up and understand how to participate is nice. And then it's also nice to have something that can spur those questions and spur those deeper conversations. Just a couple ideas that come to mind, like looking at the list that he has provided, we have that 28 by 22 poster. It's like basically it fits on an A-frame barricade, and it's a map of the different neighborhoods in Flagstaff. And we've used it
No,
previous.
this is,
Oh, this is-
no, could have that on the other side.
Different
This is a new one.
Oh.
That will be at the event next week with the neighborhood sustainability grant.
Oh, cool.
But
Highlighting the
we could
different
totally-
projects. Oh, God, so many things. So that's a nice display to, like, these are different projects in the different neighborhoods, and that's first conversation. And then we also have maps that we created where people could put a pin in where they are visiting from. So like at the events, and that's helped us gather some information from bigger events where we're like, we don't know what neighborhood you're coming to us from. Like, are you from right over there? Or are you from across town?
Another interactive idea I've heard of is like I don't know, you have these jars and you can like vote with like a Skittle or something like that of like, you know, where they'd like, you know, it could be like where they want to see the future of Flagstaff to go or something like that. Right, in the sustainability realm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so being able to vote like that, that's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, I mean, almost off of that, I was kind of thinking of, we have our categories, the neighborhood sustainability grant, like ask them which one's most important to you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good question, like
Yeah.
easily categorized.
So you can put $1 and.
It's on the rent.
Right?
Isn't there some kind of a wheel that you guys, I was at, I did the spin the wheel when I wanted your. Do we still have that? Can we pull that
Depending,
up? And give out water bottles?
We have one or two.
we have 2, but I don't know if, so at the event, we have about
Oh,
6
that's probably-
other
that's
tables
just
as
early
well.
days, you're right, that's not sustainable.
So, but we may be able to, like, spinning wheels are fun and engaging, depends on what you want to have on there. But they draw people in, on there, like flipping something over to engage for more information is like, these things can be so simple as like, here's a photo of like one of the neighborhood sustainability grant funded projects. And then you flip it over to find out more, like what it was, or how much it cost for them to do this, or I don't know. What sort of information that would be.
Little things, people plant seeds.
I would advise against that one. Because they're
Bring other seeds.
primarily because there's like 3 other groups that
Oh, okay, they're already
always
doing
do something like that. And
Maybe they're
like,
gonna-
not saying that it's not a great and useful idea. To focus attention on stuff that's novel or unique to this group.
I think we're back to, I think that was a good idea. We need to find out what people think are the more important things for the grants. If you had to pick a grant, if you had to put money in something, what would you put the money in?
Have you heard about neighborhood sustainability grants? Like that's a fun one just to ask people, like, hey, have you heard about these? And
This
then
is our opportunity to advertise it.
Yeah.
think about that as well.
Just everybody else is gonna be environmental, we don't have to.
I have an idea. This is something Tia and I have also talked about, we've talked about as a commission, is that there's a problem with the name of the sustainability grants, that, that businesses just assume they're not eligible, so they don't apply. And so we've had discussions about potentially renaming it. We could have a contest, like rename the sustainability grant. You know, what do you think it should be called?
I don't, a grant.
I don't know.
Or like vote in the jars with the
Yes.
symbols or
Yes.
names that we come up with.
Yes, yeah, that works too.
Or you can have another option and they can put in their own ideas.
Say the planet grants.
And we could start collecting data at the event next week too, even.
Yes.
Ooh. Okay.
I geek out over these types of things, so it's really fun. Always happy to talk more, but love those ideas. And I don't know how it works or how we as a sustainability office support the materials and things that are developed. That's Tia's world more.
Maybe I'll probably set up like a little craft day, depending on which way we go.
Is the emissions, is the emissions model or vote or goal, is that something that's across the board for the Earth Day too, or is it something that's sustainability department? Carbon neutrality. Huh. Is that something we want to, I mean, do people even know what it is? Do they even know we have one?
Do we
Or,
have
I mean, I'm saying, are you
tabling
are you gonna have a
materials?
table for that amongst the group?
Oh, I have no idea.
Oh.
I don't know. Great
Like, I'm
question.
coordinating the large event. I'm not focused so much on our individual tables because our different team members, especially a lot of our AmeriCorps, are developing table activities and things like that, that we're going to then have in a resource library for future programs. Hey, take this really cool thing that your predecessor made and do those displays. So we do have some AmeriCorps members who are coordinating those specific things. I just don't know because my brain's not there at the moment.
I don't think so.
If we don't have one that's specifically on the carbon neutrality plan, so like we will have an energy table and they're gonna be focusing, not surprisingly, on the energy side of the carbon neutrality plan. We have a food systems group, and so it's being, because it's such a big plan, like it's being spread across a lot of different tables, for special, like specifically. But if the commission wanted to be like, hey, we have this big plan and these big goals, that would be great to share too.
I think this makes sense for us to go to focus on the grant concept, because that's really what our niche is. I'm sorry I even mentioned things like. carbon neutrality.
No, it's important.
Yeah, but I mean, somebody else's table.
We can talk to
Yeah.
the community about the carbon neutrality plan if they have questions.
Yeah, and the connection to the commission itself and the grants, like they all, like, I think about almost every single neighborhood sustainability grant that I've looked at or seen the reviews of, all of it goes to aspects of the carbon neutrality plan in one way or the other. I mean, those categories are like directly aligned with CNP goals and priorities. So it's an easy connection and easy conversation to like move into in that space. Like, yeah, these things support this bigger plan and the regional plan and all, like, it's all connected. And I think I heard that a lot during the conversation with you all, that interconnectivity of the programs and projects is just like, it's so interwoven that sometimes it's hard to like pull it out. And you see that in the grant applications and things like that, so.
So we'll have the map, we'll do name voting, is that what I heard? And then do we want some other thing too, or
Well, the poster is going to be explaining that we have grants, that right? Because there's, ask people to name something, they
It's
don't
just
even
a
know what it
it's
is.
just a map? So we could
Presenting this.
ask us about the neighborhood sustainability grant, or ask us how to get $7,500 for your sustainability idea, like better or something.
Instead of using the word sustainable, we have $7,500 for you to fix the planet. What would you want to do in this small community to fix the planet? If you had $7,500, what would you do and what would you call it? Because if you keep calling it a sustainability grant, they're just gonna keep coming back and saying, oh, it's a sustainability grant.
I like your idea about voting on the, which category is most important to you.
Yeah.
Or, yeah.
How long has it been named this name for the sustainability grant?
Sustainability commission became.
10 years.
Nice.
So yeah, there's definitely, you know, kind of recognition, some recognition now, but.
Yeah, totally. Like there's actually some name recognition that's worth considering keeping it. And the like that it might just be a marketing issue with like its businesses that realize they're not part of the neighborhood or their local community. Like that they just need to understand that.
Certainly not like our top like go-to. I mean, we have definitely have other outreach priorities too.
So is the idea of changing it? I know, probably getting to that at that meeting.
I mean, yeah, it's on this agenda.
Okay, so is that because of the word neighborhood or the word sustainability?
I think community, or neighborhood.
No,
Yes.
so what had happened was like, yeah, we were told to have businesses or like turn off by the name of the grant because they don't, they see the word neighborhood and they don't see themselves in that way. And so they don't think they're eligible for the grant. So it does beg the question, who else is reading that name and also thinking that?
Like is a community sustainability grant a little more apt for what we're getting nowadays?
Flagstaff sustainability grant, just take out community altogether. Just call it the town group's community sustainability grant.
May not, probably.
I think that
Cha-ching.
I also think that going from neighborhood to Flagstaff makes it sound less accessible for people that have small ideas and want to make it like for actual neighborhood community members. I think that might be the spirit behind calling it neighborhood.
Well, it used to be $2,000. Right.
Okay.
Started out with like little neighborhood projects.
Yeah.
So,
Now it's big, now
I mean, 7,000. I mean, it's really, yeah.
I kind of
Seventh grade is the new two.
I think your point is valid about it might be a marketing issue.
I think also community, because community can be
Mhm.
large and small. It can be a neighborhood.
Mhm.
And it can also be our greater community, which is Flagstaff. And
The
even
community
beyond.
involves all entities
Yeah,
within.
so
the
that
community.
might be encompassing. Like, that's kind of what I would
We
propose
call
that we
that
really
the
do.
greater community sustainability, greater community.
Within city limits.
Greater Flagstaff community. That's another word to it.
I love it.
One of the things that I kind of
Yeah.
feel sometimes is that the whole thing is such a big thing. You kind of tune it out, the environment, the carbon, all of these things are huge and they're huge problems. And how do I do something about it? And, if there was some way in this, we could inform folks how, a little thing could make a
I
big
love that.
difference. And kind of folks, as we make this the greater grant, well, how do we maybe make it a little smaller, a little more accessible and, and kind of take away this overwhelming sense. I mean, my kids and, oh my God, the whole world's going to hell. And, relieve a little of that and give us something to think about that, well, maybe if I take this step, then things will be better and I'll feel better and whatever. But, try and bring it down to earth a little bit. How exactly, I don't know. My kids don't listen to me now, so I don't know, have all that much more influence on the community at large, but.
Sure, a lot of people know that we even have a sustainability committee and a sustainability department in our town. I don't know about you, but I've mentioned that I'm on the sustainability commission and they go, what?
That's a pretty important point,
Yeah, okay, so how about we have the map, like you said.
Yes.
I would love to use the jars with the different categories we have on the neighborhood sustainability grant categories. It sounds like we are now not in agreement about whether or not the grant needs to be renamed. I don't know if it would be wise to open that to the community for input.
We could also have like, keep it as is, as an option, but
Oh, we could. Let's focus for the Earth Day.
Oh, yes.
Just from having an idea, maybe we ask someone owns a business, you can say, does this name deter you from applying? Or what do you do?
how could we reach you about this grant
Yeah.
in the future too? Like if they stick with it.
Right, and let them know it's not a pitch, because businesses are so accustomed to people asking them for things, hitting them up for money, business, whatever.
So maybe that could be one of the goals of the commissioners that are tabling at the Earth Day event is to ask people what they think of the name and ask people if are you a local business owner or, what do you think of this?
Well, Tia's suggestion about having that question pop up at our celebration next week,
That's a better place.
Yeah,
People have
that's-
actually had some access to
Yeah.
it.
That's true.
Okay.
that's a good,
So we could
that's a
just
good
bring
initial
it,
polling.
keep the, NSG as an option, people can vote. Do we want to do the little jars next week at the event too? Or like a tally thing, what is the?
Well, his jars had to do with what things were important.
Is there gonna be a whiteboard?
Yeah, maybe a controversial idea that it might be too trivial to ask about the naming of it rather than like, bigger concepts that involve sustainability to like gauge people's interest.
What does sustainability even mean to you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
How about
Different
we
audience.
start by bringing a whiteboard to the grant,
Okay.
to the NSG Discovery Stroll?
Okay.
And we could announce that we're thinking about renaming it just for clarity and accessibility and inclusion. And we could, just write at the top of the whiteboard. Maybe we could all write some suggestions that we have. We could write community sustainability grant. We could write Flagstaff. We could write all these things.
Yeah.
Keep it the same.
Yeah.
And ask people to write, and then we can just take a picture of it and capture.
Are there other words besides sustainability that we want to shoot for? Like
I don't know.
neighborhood, environmental grant,
No,
or neighborhood.
I like sustainable. I think environmental turns a lot of people off, and I think
Okay.
sustainability applies to more things than the environment. Like economic sustainability, I think is
really.
Wells
important.
Fargo thinks of it as one, yeah.
It is, yeah.
They well, a little
Yeah.
section on resilience in the Wells Fargo Bank.
We are on sustainability.
Exactly.
I just, was one of the words in the title I thought we
Yes.
could look at.
Yes.
Okay,
Never-
so we've got a couple more agenda items.
That sounds much fun. Thank you, Tia. I actually was looking at the clock and the remainder of our agenda, and I would recommend tabling the future agenda item requests as well as the discussion about the ordinance update. It's so brief, but I think
Yeah.
we'll get that on the agenda next time, because I want that to be an order of business in the next few months. So, yeah.
So there's two of them.
I agree. This is a really fun commission to be a part of, and everybody's participatory and lively. I love our conversations. It is so hard. I've never chaired a body like this before, and keeping us on schedule and on track is really challenging. So I'm gonna work harder at that, but I don't want to silence anybody. I think our discussions are fruitful, so.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. I feel so badly when we go over time and we get to the end of an agenda and there's
Start bringing snacks.
multiple items left. So, so thank you,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thank you. We just hope you get better. Your rookie year, we made some allowances.
Well, we're all on the same page then. With that, let's move to and from. Does anybody have anything to share?
Hopefully a quick one, maybe a art food for thought, art request. It caught my eye, one of the three parts of our mission, first part, to advise sustainability division staff on matters related to climate and sustainability. And I feel like we don't always know what's going on inside the sustainability division. We hear of like little things here and there. And I've been on other nonprofit boards before, and often the executive director would come and give like a high level briefing of what's gone on within the organization that month. And it helps inform the board, you know, in this case, our commission, to even be able to advise. And so that's kind of the part request, if that's appropriate, to like have a high level report provided.
Happened. We used to.
That would be excellent,
Excuse
yeah.
me, sorry. Yeah, we used to do we have monthly reports that we submit to council and
Nice.
city manager's office. The thing is, it's just a document, so the presentations, it's not much of a presentation, but I think that would be great to bring back. I just know
This is the document.
we run out of time so often that sometimes it's like, there's that, sorry, what?
How many pages is the document? Can you just send it to us as part of the agenda? We
It's
can
like-
read it.
Yeah, but we could still highlight like key things too. Maybe we choose like one or two things in each of those sections. I think, yeah, it's just like, we should totally do that. Whether we have time to do other things after that, that's like, we'll see, but yeah.
I think the fact that it's like the first line of our mission, you know, suggests that it has greater importance. And so should be highlighted more so that we can even advise.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Get 6 points on
We do provide every 6 months an update to city council. That's at a fairly high level of things that we have been working on and accomplished, and then items that we're pursuing in the next several months. The next update is next Tuesday.
Cool.
So there are some mechanisms there, and that's something,
I can send you all the recording.
Sure.
That sounds good. And that would be like 10 to 15 minutes, just a good starting place. And then we can do the ratings too.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you all know of any residents or entrepreneurs that have business ideas that, you know, are about reducing waste in our landfill and diverting it into our materials, or removing or reducing carbon dioxide, or conserving water. We have a upcoming business pitch competition. The deadline is April 7th. I will send you all an information with more details. It's called, it used to be called Innovate Waste, and now it's Innovate Grain Competition. And there's cash awards up to $30,000.
Holy mackerel.
Business ideas. Yeah.
That goes to the, to NAU sustainability.
If NAU,
Like to the.
so definitely NAU affiliates have applied before. I know Amy's like been semi, like involved in some
Yeah.
like Smart Fan, Ellie Jenkins, Smart Fan, Flow Smart Fan. That's gonna be installed in the starter homes, got funded last year. So
I
there's,
mean, like, is it appropriate to be like, hey, seniors who are in this degree program, or hey, master students, like, here's the business pitch competition?
yes,
Or
for
is that like
sure.
beyond the scope of what you would want?
I would say like they would need to like be far enough in their idea. It's definitely more likely if they're out of the ideation stage.
They have to actualize it. It's not just, this is a great.
And then
pitch.
like to receive the funds, they need to like have a registered LLC too, so.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, or a master's project.
Smart Fan started as a capstone project for seniors at NAU.
Yeah. So yeah, it's like, there have been students that have applied in the past, and I don't know if it was just the project, but it did feel like they weren't quite ready. And definitely worth them reaching out and asking them, like, even before filling out the full app, which is a very simple application too, though, so.
Because it just might take $60,000 to make it ready. I mean, that might be just, somebody say to them, here's some money, so they move to the next step.
So I'll email you all more information and you can share with your networks.
Any other to and from?
Happy spring, officially.
Oh, yeah, that's today.
It's today.
John told me.
Oh,
Yes, they're celebrating it in Japan and in Russia too. Did you know that? I know.
Okay, last item on the agenda. Are there any future agenda item requests?
Oh,
just today I was meeting with that Q board and they were talking about some changes to the resource protection overlay.
Yep.
They asked, I don't know, maybe, Danae, they said maybe there's already a plan to have City of Flagstaff meet with us over this, but
It's in the last cap.
okay. Well, they said that there was something even beyond the cap project. I don't know exactly. They know more, but having something about that.
yes, I had heard from staff last time that they were taking out the resource protection overlay, and that's why we didn't discuss it at the last time, because they're trying to accelerate that. Is that what's coming to council on April 8th? Is that related?
It will be a separate item, but I'll ask Genevieve on that. She's okay.
We're not sure, so we need to ask about that.
Follow up.
I missed that if it got removed from the last cap. I thought that was one of the levers that was in that
That's what I heard. Yeah.
review.
And then
So
they were
I,
doing a deeper dive into some type of wildfire resilience component.
Exactly, it's about
Yeah.
wildfires, but I asked if it was to do with the cap or if it was to do with, the regional plan. They said it was kind of to do with both, but also outside of it. I don't know. I don't know exactly the details, but that's.
that's important.
Yeah, so yeah, I could probably get you an update sooner than that. Do you want it? And then do you want it, if you get an update and it requires action or more discussion, do you want to keep it on that future agenda items request for?
Sure. I could also email Cube and ask them to send an email about it.
I mean, it's helpful that you mentioned it as a commissioner right now in future agenda items.
Yeah.
What?
I just don't like, I don't like engaging in anything political right now, but I would love to know, so like businesses or groups in Flagstaff that are being impacted by federal changes related to climate policy and priorities and grant funding. Is the city doing anything that can support our local, like, whatever's happening locally? And I know the city's also probably being impacted, but just kind of like maybe a conversation about how can the city be helpful to That's good.
Okay, we're over time.
All right. Thank you, Tia,
I heard about Harvard.
and for being the co-chair of this committee. And with that, we'll say meeting adjourned.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
See you next Thursday.
See you next Thursday.
Mary,
Excited.
here are your papers.
Thank you.
Great.
There's a couple more.